Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Dan Kovatz. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Democratic County Chairs Association. I want to thank you for joining us for our next installment of our virtual training series. Tonight, we are joined by City Clerk Anna Valencia from Chicago, who's going to talk to us about municipal candidates and some of the do's and don'ts about running for municipal office. A couple of things before we get going that I want to touch on. First off, everyone is going to be muted during the duration of the session here. So if you have questions at all, please put them in the chat below. We will get to them as the session progresses, but that way we're able to try and get through as much as we can. Please put any questions you have in the chat. Second is to be present during this. The training or the session itself should last anywhere between a half hour to 45 minutes, depending on how the Q&A is going. So if you need to get up, stretch your legs, go ahead. If you need to go grab a bottle of water, go ahead. Whatever you do, just plan on being present during this entire time. And then last is ask as many questions as you can. There's no stupid questions during this. We're all here to learn. Yes, we are hyper-focused on November, but let's also remember in September, petitions go out for municipal offices next April. So we need to be thinking about that next municipal election. Or if you're interested, we've got a lot of our boot camp alumni that are going to be participating tonight. If you're interested in running for municipal office, this is a good way to get some of those answers to your questions. So with that, I will turn it over to our presenter for this evening, Clerk Valencia. If you're not familiar with her, she was appointed in 2017 as City Clerk of Chicago, and then elected again in 2019 as clerk. But she comes from a wide range of experience on not just the candidate side, but on the staff side. She's worked local races, legislative races, statewide as well. Just full disclosure, I worked for Anna in 2014 as she was my campaign manager on Senator Durbin's reelection campaign. Go team downstate. And she has a wealth of experience. So when we were putting these together, she was one of the first people that I reached out to participate. So I will turn it over to Anna and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Christina, for having me and asking me to join. Dan, I see your Durbin sign in the back. So I see you're proud 2014 alum. I am a new mom as well, is my new title. So I am holding a baby that's hopefully going to sleep during this, but if she doesn't, I apologize ahead for the screaming you may hear, but I have a bottle next to me to plug her up so we can continue chatting. Just a little bit about me. I actually, although randomly, I guess not randomly, but I am one of the 3 citywide electeds in Chicago. First time in Chicago history that all 3 citywide electeds, the mayor, the treasurer, and the city clerk, are women and women of color. So it's very exciting to have us there in the helm. But I actually grew up in Granite City, Illinois, and my parents still live there today. And my brother lives in Alton, and I have family in Lebanon and all over the Madison County area. So if there's any folks from Madison County or St. Clair County, hello. It's good to see you, as that's where I still home from. So I'm a downstater. I worked in Springfield too, and went to school at U of I in Champaign-Urbana. So a little bit all over the state. Just a little bit, I guess, I'll talk kind of about my municipal race, and then I'm happy to open up to any questions, whether it's municipals or, in 2014, we ran a vote by mail program. I know that's a big topic that people are talking about as well. But what I love about focusing on municipal races and local races, what I tell people a lot is building a bench. If you think about our local mayors, city clerks, county clerks, these important races are a pipeline to further office. If you look at actually who was city clerk before me, was Susana Mendoza in Chicago. And she was the first Latina to ever hold that position as a citywide elected. And now you see her in the controller's office. So it's exciting to see around the state where people could get their first step into office, or running for city council as well. These are all great posts to start to learn the ropes, understand in smaller offices exactly how government and politics are intertwined, and getting prepared for if you want to even run for higher office, whether that's the state house or Congress or statewide office, or anything else you may want to do. So for our municipals in Chicago, it's a little crazy with petitions. People laugh at me all the time when I tell them how many I have to get. When I was running citywide, I had to get 15,400 petitions, signatures. That's no joke. I think the government needs 10,000 statewide. It's a rule that I hope we change in the future. So I ended up getting 30,000 signatures from the time in, late August to the week before Thanksgiving. So you have a very kind of small window to get those type of signatures. So that is something I definitely know about. And what's also interesting is what Dan talks about is municipal is nonpartisan. So, typically you don't run as a Democrat or Republican. And what I found that really helped me in all campaigns too, not just municipal, is really finding issue areas that you could speak about. Issue areas, I think that's the biggest thing that hits voters. They want to talk about, what are the things you're doing, whether it's reforms. For me, it's reforming the ticketing system here in Chicago. We had a really big issue with people getting these fines and fees, these tickets, the city sticker ticket that I oversee, the Chicago vehicle ticket. I don't know if you guys have city stickers that you have to purchase for your municipalities. I oversee that. Our tickets, if you do not have a city sticker, are $200. And that can be each day you can get citation. So we were seeing folks getting $600, $800, $1,000 in debt from city sticker ticket debt, which was then having their driver's license suspended. Now, if you can't drive to work, how are you going to get a paycheck to be able to pay these tickets off or provide for your families? So that was something that my office and I led on in 2018, and we talked about that a lot in the campaign in 2019. In fact, we were talking about it so much that it ended up being a top issue in the mayoral campaign when all the mayoral candidates were running in 2019 as well. So that is something that I really find is that issue areas are the key to nonpartisan races, to make sure that you're connecting with voters and engaging them on what they find that are important. And it's something that can slice through the partisanship of Democrat, Republican, either way. I think that here in Chicago, everyone just assumes you're a Democrat when you're running because we're so blue up here. I know in other races, take my hometown in Granite and the mayor's race, it was a huge thing about some flooding that happened last year. And that was a huge race in the county seats as well. So local issues do matter to voters. And that's something you have to pay attention to and feel out the voting block. Door to door, I grew up in the field organizing. I organized in Virginia right out of college. I learned from the Democratic Party of Virginia, which I think is one of the best state parties when it comes to organizing. And I worked in Michigan as well. And so I can't, the voter contact, I can't stress enough. And I know right now in COVID-19, it's hard. People are trying to find new ways to interact with voters, whether it be town halls. Biden did a town hall. I was told it had 1,000 folks. We did a Latinos for Biden event, and we had 500 people throughout the state join. And after the call, the campaign asked like a survey whether people are supporting Biden, leaning towards Biden, where they are undecided. So they are using digital technology to reach more people. And if you think about it too, what's interesting about these times that we're living in is I couldn't ever get 500 contacts knocking on doors in one night. I mean, Dan also probably understands this too. And especially if you live in a rural area or more suburban area that the houses are spread out and, every 10 houses you're looking for a Democrat or you're looking for someone to be home. I mean, 500 contacts in one night is pretty spectacular that people are paying attention. And so we have an advantage point of it. People are, stuck at home, quarantined, they may actually get on a virtual town hall, or they may actually want to come see a candidate or surrogate speak about an issue area that they care about. And that could be a new organizing tool for you to build contacts, to build up your email list, to do your surveys, etc., until you're able to traditionally canvass and go door to door. So, you know, whether it's a municipal election or it's a partisan race, door-to-door contact, I cannot stress, I think it's so important. I don't think that ever is going to go away, of just people being able to talk to you about their issues, and in the neighborhood or in the precinct level or the city level. I think the municipal issues as well is you're the first person at the front line when something happens in the city. So if you see everything that's happening right now, you see mayors are constantly talking. They're the ones that their faces are out there, whether it's COVID-19 or the reaction to George Floyd or what's happening. You see mayors on the front lines. What I love about municipal government is that you're so close to touching everyone. You're so close to what issues on the on the ground, the grassroots, what's happening. So much more sometimes than those that are federal candidates, because they're splitting time between DC and home. Even the state legislature, they're going to Springfield, half the year they're in Springfield, half the year they're home. But we're here 24/7. We're accessible, we're out in the communities. And so when things go awry, you're the first person that you're going to get a text or a call from a faith leader, a community leader, another elected official, asking you questions of what's happening on the ground. So I think the municipal elections also are a telling sign of what's going to happen in the next elections. What are people thinking about? What are their feelings towards elected officials? What are their feelings towards how government's been running? Is it accessible? Is it, are they accessible? Are they being accountable? Do you feel like they're listening? Are they doers? Are they doing things? So municipal elections, I think, are another great way to tell what's going to happen in the general elections or the midterm elections, what's kind of coming up and brewing up. So that's been one of the things I've loved about local government. I think we get, looked over quite a bit, but you can really make things happen. You actually have the ability quickly to pass resolutions, to pass ordinances, to get things done that your neighbors are truly going to feel the impact of. They're not going to wait a long time for the state money to come through or the federal money to come through. It's really going to come through you and your initiatives. So I'm a big advocate of local government, if you can't tell. And I don't know, I'm going to stop there because I don't want to keep talking at people. I like conversation and dialogue. So that's a little bit about my background. I was a campaign manager for Senator Durbin in 2014. I ran the 2014 coordinated campaign, worked for John Cullerton, Senate President, in the 2010 Democratic Caucus for the state Senate races. So I ran all the field for all the state Senate races outside of Cook County, and then worked for Congressman Quigley's, Congressman Foster's special election. So I've done an array of things in Illinois and Chicago. Worked on Rahm Mayor Emanuel's first election in 2011 as his field director for Chicago, and was a senior advisor for his reelection, and also served as his legislative director for Chicago, which I was the first woman of color, first Latina to ever serve in that position, and like the second woman ever to hold that position since in Chicago's history, which is crazy. We're making inroads, but it's crazy that I was like the second. So happy to open up to have a discussion, and happy to talk about municipal elections or anything else that you have at the top of mind.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? If folks have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll go through them as they come in. I know municipal elections, it's something that for a partisan organization, we don't really think about. So there's a lot of things that if you have questions, let's go through them. Our president, Christina Zahorik, is on, and she did have a question and wanted to get your take on how do you balance political work and family?
Oh, well, this is all new, so I have no idea what I'm doing yet. I'm only 8 weeks in. But I will say that, I was listening to Michelle Obama speak about maybe 2 years ago at the Obama Foundation held a summit in Chicago, and I was lucky enough to attend. And I thought she said something pretty profound, and I've been trying to stick to it, and it's not always best at it, but she said that when she schedules her family first, so everything on the calendar goes with her kids, then her husband and anything she has, or her former president, and then herself, and then everyone else after. And I thought that was really interesting that she really wanted to take that time first for her family and herself, which I think is really important, and especially for yourself. I want to get to this point. We talk about self-care, and I don't think it's just like, I'm not talking about a massage or mani and pedi. Those are nice, and I'll be excited to get back to those routines after COVID-19. But what I mean is, especially women, we give everything to everyone all the time. And I notice this myself. I'm a giver. I love being there for people. That's why I love public service. I'm a people person. I get energy from people. I love to feel needed and help in any way. And that's been really hard during this COVID-19 situation, and being home with a newborn, is I can't be out in the streets, at food drives or, marching, because I also have a newborn. And, but what I will say is that, making sure that you have those priorities in order, and you do set boundaries with your team. I tell my team all the time, like, it's okay if you say, hey, I got a hard stop at 7. I'm not available 7 or 9 because I want to do bath time with my kids, but I'll check email after 9, or I prefer 7:30 calls in the morning than at nighttime calls because my kids are sleeping. I think in order for women, especially, to run for office and to, work their way up the ladder, we have to have these flexibilities. And I think, if anything, Dan and I were talking before we had this call, having grace for each other. Because now when we're in COVID-19, we're on Zoom calls, and your kid might pop up, or your baby screams, and we're normal, we're human. And I told Dan, hey, I might have to cut the call early tonight if you start screaming your head off. I'm sorry, I apologize. But we have to have grace for folks that are doing that. So I'm still learning. I'm not perfect, but I do try. Before COVID-19, I did start a few things. If I have to go to events, I don't say should. If I say should, then I shouldn't be doing it. If I'm going to be doing something, is it going to help the cause move forward? Is it going to help our initiatives we're trying to do in our office go forward? Is it something that's going to, help my career? Like, why am I going? If it's because someone's going to get mad at me because I'm going to hurt feelings, that's not enough reason anymore. Because you could get invited to 1,000 events, but sometimes you can't be everywhere all the time. So you just have to pick and choose what's going to make the maximum effort. And so that's what I'm trying to remember. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. So taking those times with your family, I think, gives you the energy to keep doing the work. And taking time for yourself also is not selfish. It helps you recharge for the marathon, especially this marathon that we have marching to November. We have to recharge. And I know a lot of my friends the last 2 weeks are just drained. Last few years, a lot of folks are just exhausted from the work. And so we have to recharge so we can make sure that in November we get this guy out.
And the only thing I'll add on to that is there is no right answer with this. It is a work in progress. As somebody with 2 kids at home and still being active in a campaign, it is very much a work in progress.
Yes.
So we have a couple more questions coming in. So you had spoke earlier, Anna, about the need to go door to door, and I completely agree with you. Like you came out of field, but if we're still having to deal with COVID-19 in the fall with municipal candidates with petitions, or if it prolongs into the winter or into the next spring for a campaign season, how do we shift? Instead of doing the door-to-door, do we do more social media, or what are you kind of thinking what the next municipal elections are going to look like if we can't go door-to-door?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I know that folks were trying to look at like online petitions, get people electronic signature. I know that there's state legislators that are trying to look at that too. I think in terms of organizing, you know, going back to talking kind of or speaking about what Biden did virtually, if people are at home, I think there is a way to engage them. I also think it's what topics you choose, what kind of issue areas you're talking about, whether maybe you can get a surrogate who has endorsed you, or a big supporter or a local name that would be a big draw to join one of your Zoom calls, or you know, that is helpful. You know, I think everyone's trying right now just to figure it out. They're trying a bunch of different avenues and then seeing what kind of sticks. So I think even after this general election, taking tips from what the folks have been doing, whether it's the state party, whether it's Biden, whether it's what other grassroots organizations, what you all are doing. I mean, these virtual nights like this is an awesome way for someone from Chicago like me to connect with other folks around the state. I think it's an opportunity for us to engage in an area that we might be able to do that. We couldn't all drive to one central location and be able to connect like we are. So I think that is a positive also of really having people connect in a way that we hadn't been able to before.
Okay. And here's a good one that I know municipal candidates face, you know, year in and year out. What are some good ways to fundraise if you are a municipal candidate?
Oh man, that's always hard. I always get the question like, city clerk, like, what do you do? You know, and I'm sure people are like, well, how can you help me? You know, that is tough. I will say that for me, I've taken a little bit of different approach, non-traditional city clerk approach. I have used this platform to do many other things besides just what my role is. So the role of City Clerk of Chicago, we do most of our operations are the city sticker. You know, we bring in about $135 million a year in revenue for the city of Chicago on the city sticker sales alone. And then I also oversee city council functions. So all the votes, we have a city council meeting tomorrow. I do the roll call. I'm the archivist. I keep all of the ordinances and legislation. But then there were other things that I thought were important to me and my team that we wanted to take a stab at. So I'm a big advocate for young girls. We were supposed to do a young girls summit of 500 young girls ages 13 to 24 this fall. We had been actively raising money for it. It was a whole thing on girls and safety, and what kind of resources they needed. So that has been something I've been working on for the last 2.5 years, is a report on the status of women and girls of Chicago and how can we close the gap here in Chicago. So that is another avenue I've used to fundraise off of. So people who may not really care what I do as city clerk love advocating for women and girls, and that's something that they're interested in, so they may donate towards. Or another initiative we have is City Key. It's a municipal ID card, the first in this state of Illinois. It also offers, you know, non-binary and no gender distinction. The first card do that in Chicago as well. It's a big LGBTQ, something that they advocated for the community. So that is also a way that I raise money. It's also helped undocumented communities, help for inter-communities, homeless communities. So folks really like that program and want to support. So it's some of the programs that may not be traditionally city clerk programs. I've tried to branch out and really think about things that we can do further for the community, how we can have more of a big impact. And I think people have seen that and want to invest in that person, invest in our, you know, the work that we're doing in our office and keep us in office because they see us as forward thinking and making sure that we're doing everything we can to positively impact the community. So I would say in your office, your municipal office, see like what work you do. And even if there's things that you could extend that work of something that you're passionate about, but marry something you're passionate about with the work that you do, maybe there's a fundraising base there that will want to invest in you. It may not be the office because it's just like, oh, what does the city clerk do? I want to give money to the mayor, not the city clerk. I've actually raised a lot of money for being the city clerk because of these other issue areas that I've kind of have stepped into and advocated for.
Okay, and that's something that I want to kind of touch on too. Is for the candidates that I've worked with on the municipal level, it's difficult to find what that issue is. And we've got a good mix of our boot camp alumni, and there are some who've run for office before, some who are current, village, trustees or village member, electeds. But if you are not in a position where you can have that, where you're a first-time candidate, how do you really kind of set your mind on, these are the issues that I want to run on for a city clerk or a village clerk or a village trustee type race?
Well, I think you can still own the issues. I don't think that the incumbent can still own all the issues, or whoever you're running against. I think you can carve your own path. And if you're running because you don't like that the person in that position has not been, really focused on the areas or the community that you believe in, take those issues. That doesn't just belong to that person. I think really it's about messaging. It's kind of like the whole synergy, I think, of a campaign. You got the right candidate, someone who's personable or that can, have conversations with folks. I mean, I've worked with candidates that may not have been so personable, so we have to kind of tweak that. But you've got to like people. I say if you want to run for office, you should really like people, because that you're going to be dealing with people throughout the campaign, and you're going to be also, when you go in government, you're going to be dealing with people, and not all people who like you either. So you've got to have some thick skin at times, and people can feel, they can sense whether you want to be somewhere or not. So one of the rules I have also is, like, I'm tired and exhausted that day and I have an event that I have to go to, sometimes I think about maybe I shouldn't go because I'm not in the mindset to go and greet people. Because if you come to an event and you're, that negativity, or people can tell that you don't want to be there. So that's also important to really think about the energy you're bringing into your campaign. But the right candidate just needs to be personable, likes people, wants to be out there, and then maybe put your kitchen cabinet together and ask your kitchen cabinet and some close friends of the community, like, what are the issues that you think are important? What is this person not doing? Where's your end that you can kind of get your foot in the door and own that part of the campaign? And so, and like when I talk about issue areas, I don't just think of them as, and I just sit in a room by myself and say, this would be cool to do. I actually, in my first 30 days in office, I did about 50 roundtables all over the city of Chicago, all over the community, asking them, what do you think? What about City Key? And because I listened, I understood what the municipal ID card should actually be. And what I thought it was going to be was completely different from what it actually ended up becoming, because we listened and were able to take that feedback and put it into the card. So have a kitchen cabinet of people you trust and put them in a room and ask them, what are the issues? And every part of your county or your city may be different. And maybe, on the east side, it's all about recycling. On the west side, it's all about, bringing new manufacturing jobs or your libraries or your schools. So not all issue areas are the same to every community either. There'll be some broad statements you should make, but there should also be specific, messaging bits for each part of your area that you are representing, because each, it's not going to all be equal the same. And people will appreciate that you actually took the time to realize that, Miss Susie, really cares about, animal rights. And when you came to knock on her door, you talked to her about animal rights. And then a month later, you followed up, maybe dropped off a postcard or a lit piece that had something about animal rights. And she's going to go talk to her bridge club or her bunco club and say how great you were that you remembered, that tidbit. I mean, these little things, retail politics like that, they just add up. They really add up.
So want to be respectful of your time, Anna, and I know with your daughter. So if anyone has any other questions, comments, please let's get them in the chat so we can get them in the session here. One thing, and I wanted to pick your brain on this, Anna, is you as a candidate for elected office and being in office for a while now, but then also your staff experience. What advice would you give to a candidate, first-time candidate? They're going to run for the, the DeKalb City Council, what advice would you give them before they decided to run?
Listen, listen. I have turned into the candidate at times and the principal at times that I hated dealing with. And so I have to check myself. I don't always like feedback from my team all the time. And I definitely don't like being told no. And so I have this kind of flashback from when I was a staffer and I had to slow down candidates or kill their dreams, I would say, because they wanted to go and do something that was just like far off or wasn't going to, get them the results they wanted. And sometimes as the principal or the candidate, you can't always see that. So I really think having, a trusted advisors that you trust really sit down with you and make this path before you make this decision. Can you raise the money? Is there a pathway to win? What do you think your message is going to be? Who can you get on as big endorsers or supporters? Are you going to get a local mayor to endorse you? Does it matter if they do or not? Are there certain people in the community or the city that would mean a lot to have their endorsement? Because people do look at that. I wouldn't say endorsements win races, but if there is someone that's well respected in your community and you think you can get them on your side, that does sway people. It's not the whole thing, but it does help. Or it may help get other candidates out of the race. These are the things you want to calculate. I don't always tell everyone to run for office. Not everyone is meant for elected office. I'm just going to be honest. I tell this to my husband when he talks about running, like, yeah, you would hate it because you don't like people all the time. But don't tell him I said that. He's not here. But I mean, there's a part for everyone to play. So maybe if you're thinking about running for office, also look at just timing. Is your family supportive of it? You definitely want to have their support. You want to have your friend support because it's a hard hustle. It's time consuming. And you want to make sure you have that mental health support as well and encouragers for when the days are bad. So let me just kind of repeat because I know I'm all over the place, but having a kitchen cabinet or an advisor I think is important. Really look at seeing if you can raise the money. Timing is the message and the timing right. And who are going to be your supporters? So you're going to be kind of your endorsers to really help you lift off this campaign. And I think if you can get all those boxes kind of checked, then go for it. And people used to tell others to wait. Wait your turn, wait your time. You don't have to wait. You can run whenever you feel like it's the right moment. But there is a timing when I would say the timing of the decade, or the timing of the messaging, or if you're the right candidate at the right time. Look at President Obama's story. He ran anyway when people told him to wait. He ran against Bobby Rush and got destroyed. But it did put him on the map to look at then the state Senate seat, and then the rest is history. But timing does have everything to do with it too. And you got to just time it for the right, to make sure it's the right time for you, your family, and for the community too.
So I think we'll wrap up on this one question. I think this is something that anyone who's been involved in politics for a while, is constantly thinking about this. If there's one thing now that you wish you would have known when you were working on campaigns or your first time running for office, what would it have been? Putting aside the advice you just gave us, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
What do I know now? Ooh, that's a good one. What do I know now that I wish I knew then? I'm still learning. I still have a ton to learn, but I'm trying to think. I think for me, it was really hard. It was really easy to run campaigns and tell people what to do. It's a lot different when your name's on the ballot. When your name's on the ballot, it's really hard to let someone else run your campaign and run your life. And I think, there were times when I was running Senator Durbin's campaign, I couldn't believe he was actually listening to me. I was like, really? You're going to listen to me? You're not going to ask anyone else? And so that was great because it gave me the power and the respect of others because he did rely on me so much. And I really talked about this in my leadership journey, that he really empowered me to be a leader that I am now. really helped my confidence to lead that race. And so I really was appreciative of him of helping me gain that confidence. So knowing that now, what it did for me, I had to really, it was a struggle for me to let go on my campaign and let my campaign manager run the race. She's a young Latina, and I was also like trying not to, I was micromanaging at the beginning. I know I was, but letting go of that. So when you're ready to run your campaign, or whether you're running someone else's campaign, really try hard to let go. First, hire the right person, make sure you feel confident, but then try to let go and let that person run the race. If people hadn't given me that chance to let go and run the race, I would have never built the confidence or the tools to have what I have now, the experience. So I would say, even if they're young, like, you know, a lot younger, don't discount them, because we need to give those young people a chance to rise to the occasion, especially if we're going to build a pipeline of talented campaign workers that are going to, you know, carry our party way after we're gone. So I would say that is something that I learned now that I wish I would have known a little bit later. But it was a good learning lesson.
Thank you again, Anna, for agreeing to come on and share some of your expertise and experience in running and being a staffer. I think this is very valuable and something that we're trying to put together for the boot camp alumni with our County Chairs Association, and this Q&A session with different elected officials and political operatives to kind of pick your brain as we're going forward with our candidates. So before we have everyone sign off, President Christina Zahorak is on the call as well, and want to bring her in just to say a couple words and thank everyone for participating tonight.
Hello, Anna, it's so nice to see you.
Hello. I'm glad to stay quiet.
Yeah. Yes, I'll try to speak quietly. So I think, you know, this is really, you know, for those on the call, many of you may not know that I also serve in municipal government as a trustee in a little village. And one of the things I think that Anna is dead on is that, you know, one of the things that she first mentioned is, you know, focus on an issue to connect, right? Where most of us run for office or are pulled into politics because there's something that you're passionate or that you care about, and that you are a people person. So don't ever forget that. And part of what Anna was saying is finding what that issue is when she was elected, she hosted all these roundtables. Well, there's nothing stopping, again, one of the things that Anna said, there's nothing stopping you from hosting those own kind of listening sessions in your community before you're elected, right? That's also, I think, that was something that was really important. She also mentioned that, you know, building this pipeline or this bench, there's something that's needed not only just to serve in these smaller offices as Democrats or people with democratic values, but also being able then to come into those spaces to find, you know, the next House member or Senate member or whatever the case may be. And if you don't have the experience, it's sometimes more difficult if you don't have the name recognition and all of that. And another part besides the municipal is there's a lot of county boards or other types of boards that you can serve on while you're waiting, you know, to run. That's also something I think that's important to do. One of the reasons why I asked about family and balance is because I know, Anna, that I recall hearing a conversation that you had with some of the other women, younger women that were in government, in municipal government, and noticing that there were some policies in place or things that could be in place to be more helpful to young mothers who are running or who are serving in elected space. And I think that was so important to hear, because we often talk about if you're not in the room or you're not at the table, you don't get to make those decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And we all bring unique perspectives to these roles. And I think, you know, that was really striking to me, because this was before you were a mom. Oh, nugget. This is before you were a mom, and you were able to kind of bring that perspective into the space, which I think is also incredibly important in the role that you serve in municipal life, because again, as you mentioned, it's one of the unique spaces where you really are reaching out and impacting people's day-to-day lives. Who's going to fill the pothole, as I always
Yeah.
call it, right? And then the last thing I would say, we keep talking about, you briefly mentioned there's a lot of turmoil, not only with COVID, but also in regards to Black Lives Matter. And if you really want to have an impact on policy changes, it's in that particular arena, it's serving in your municipal government, because then you have the oversight in that space to make that change. So, thank you so much for all you do, not only in terms of your role as a mom and a wife, a daughter and a sister, but also what you do in terms of your work life and your political life too, because you are bringing more women of color and more young people to the table. So thank you for that. And again, thank you all who came on the call tonight. I'm excited, for the state of Illinois to be leading the way and making change, not only at the state level, the national level, but also in our communities. So thank you all for wanting.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for participating tonight. We did record tonight, so we'll post it to our YouTube channel for our boot camp alumni. And if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to us.
To serve and wanting to
have a good night.
express and have the